You lie quietly, and beneath your feet, the earth hums with a rhythm you cannot see but can almost feel. It is a pulse older than any forest, older than the mountains that stretch into the sky, older than the oceans that curve around continents. The crust beneath you is solid, familiar, a place of certainty, yet it is not fixed. It floats, drifting slowly on a sea of molten rock, carrying everything upon it in an unending, patient journey. Imagine, for a moment, the crust as a great puzzle, each piece a continent, moving imperceptibly, yet persistently. Africa and South America were once joined, dancing together in a tighter embrace, until a slow pull, invisible yet insistent, guided them apart. You can almost hear the subtle friction as they separate, the gentle groan of stone stretching, moving, reshaping. The earth is alive in its own way, and you are witness to its slow, deliberate heartbeat. Beneath the crust, the mantle flows like honey, thick and warm, carrying heat from the depths of the planet to the surface. It is a river of fire and rock, slow enough that you would never perceive its motion in a day or even a lifetime, yet powerful enough to sculpt mountains, carve valleys, and nudge continents along their winding paths. You can feel the patience of this molten river as it pushes, pulls, and folds, whispering to the rigid crust above, shaping the world with subtle insistence. Visualize a mountain range rising in response, as if the earth itself is stretching its spine. Rocks that were once deep underground are pushed upward, layer by layer, until they meet the sky. Rivers begin to carve their paths, valleys form, and forests cling to the slopes, unaware of the slow, invisible forces that made their homes possible. You breathe in the quiet majesty of it all, feeling the enormity of time that surpasses any human lifetime, any human concern. The Earth's surface is not only moving horizontally, but also vertically. Imagine hot spots deep below the crust, where molten rock gathers, rising like slow bubbles in a thick stew. When it breaks through the surface, it forms volcanoes, mountains, or islands, reminding you that even the solid ground beneath you is ever-changing. Lava flows are not sudden eruptions in this meditation. They are gentle, patient rivers that reshape land, spreading heat and new possibilities. Everything is connected, from the tiniest grain of sand to the tallest peak. Think of the oceans now. They are not static pools of water but travelers themselves, riding the movements of the tectonic plates. As continents drift, oceans expand and contract, leaving traces in the rocks that will one day tell stories of distant worlds. You can imagine the seafloor slowly spreading at mid-ocean ridges, new crust emerging like fresh pages in a never-ending story. These waters hold the memory of Earth's movements, every wave a quiet acknowledgement of the patient forces below. In the silence, you might sense the weight of collisions. When two continents meet, the Earth responds with a careful, deliberate shudder. Mountains rise, earthquakes ripple gently through your imagination, and the crust folds, cracks, and molds itself into something new. It is not violence but negotiation, a conversation between enormous forces that take millions of years to reach their decisions. You, lying still, are a quiet observer of these colossal discussions. Now, let your mind drift to the thin, invisible layers of the atmosphere, moving above these shifting lands. Even the air participates in the dance, responding to the curves and heights of the mountains, guiding winds and storms that shape the landscape further. Everything is connected in a complex choreography, the crust, the mantle, the oceans, and the skies, each moving in its own rhythm, yet all forming a single, harmonious system. Close your eyes deeper and imagine looking beneath the crust itself. The mantle's molten currents are slow, patient rivers, swirling with unseen energy. They carry heat and minerals from the Earth's interior toward the surface, feeding the volcanoes and mountain chains, and guiding the drift of continents. You can almost sense the friction at the boundaries where one plate slides past another, the stress accumulating quietly, waiting for a release in an earthquake. There is no hurry here, only timeless motion, a gentle insistence that change, however slow, is inevitable. Picture the edges of continents now, meeting oceanic plates. One slides beneath another in a slow, careful descent, sinking into the mantle and melting away. This process, called subduction, is quiet yet transformative. It recycles Earth's crust, creating mountains, volcanoes, and deep trenches in the oceans. The world above is reshaped, landscapes emerge, and life finds new ways to thrive. You feel a sense of wonder as you witness this slow, patient recycling, a reminder that even destruction is part of creation. As you sink further into this meditation, you may notice the continents themselves are not rigid blocks but flexible mosaics, bending, stretching, and slowly drifting. They carry the fossils of ancient seas, the marks of past collisions, and the memory of climates long gone. You can trace the stories written in the rocks, imagining the dinosaurs roaming lush landscapes, oceans filling valleys, glaciers sculpting mountains. Time becomes fluid, almost tangible, as you sense the Earth's memory in every fold and fracture. The Earth's heartbeat continues, steady and reassuring, beneath your awareness. It reminds you that everything moves, yet everything persists. The crust may shift, volcanoes may erupt, mountains may rise and fall, yet the rhythm never ceases. There is patience in this movement, a deep, unfathomable patience that contrasts with human urgency. You begin to understand that the planet's life is slow, deliberate, and profoundly connected to every atom and molecule that composes it. Imagine yourself now as part of this slow dance. Your body resting on the solid crust, your mind wandering through molten rivers, your imagination stretching across continents. You are both observer and participant in this patient rhythm, attuned to the quiet pulse that has persisted for billions of years. Every breath mirrors the slow movement below, every heartbeat echoes the gentle flow of the mantle, and every thought drifts with the slow journey of continents. As your meditation deepens, picture the dawn of life on this moving planet. Microbes in ancient oceans, delicate ecosystems in shallow seas, creatures evolving with the shifting land. Life itself is guided by these movements, responding to mountains rising, oceans spreading, and climates changing. Every leaf, every feather, every scale is part of the Earth's slow narrative, shaped by forces too vast and patient for human eyes to see. The Earth's history is written in a language of stone and motion. Every layer of rock, every fold, every volcanic eruption tells a story of immense time, of continents meeting and parting, of oceans forming and retreating. You, lying quietly, become a witness to this slow, wondrous narrative. There is no need to rush, there is only observation, reflection, and deep, calming presence. Finally, let your awareness drift toward the unseen depths. Beyond the crust, beyond the mantle, toward the core that generates heat and magnetism, you sense the enormity of this slow, patient engine. It spins, it flows, it sustains the heartbeat that carries continents and oceans along their timeless paths. And in this moment, you feel the profound calm of the planet itself, immense, gentle, and endlessly enduring. You step softly onto the Earth, feeling the pulse beneath your feet, though it moves far slower than your heartbeat. Here, on this stage of molten rock, the continents glide, drift, and twirl in a dance that takes eons to complete. Imagine them as dancers, arms extended, bodies curved with elegance, tracing patterns that only the Earth itself can remember. You watch a mountain rise in a perfect pirouette, its peak stretching toward the sky as if inhaling the clouds, while a valley bows gently beneath it, cradling rivers like ribbons of silver in a dancer's hands. The surface you touch seems solid, immovable, yet beneath lies a restless ocean of magma, flowing and churning invisibly. It is here, in this hidden layer, that the movements of the continents are born. Your fingers could never stir it, your eyes could never fully capture it, but you can feel it if you listen closely. The Earth whispers in rhythms, slow and deliberate, as though the very heart of the planet beats in a tempo you are only beginning to sense. Long ago, the continents were clustered together, forming a single supercontinent. You imagine it as a grand circle of dancers, holding hands, spinning in harmony, their feet gliding across the same molten floor. Over millions of years, they began to drift apart, like dancers releasing one another to explore the stage in new directions. Each movement is slow, imperceptible to the day-to-day eye, yet profound in its consequence. Oceans open where there were once solid ground. Mountains rise where plates converge. Valleys deepen where they diverge, and in these subtle motions, the choreography unfolds. You watch a small piece of land gently drift away from its neighbor. It glides like a ballerina taking a tentative step into the spotlight, moving without hurry, guided by forces invisible and immense. It is carried by the currents of the Earth's mantle, a slow-motion ocean beneath solid rock. This dance is not random. It is a symphony composed in heat and pressure, in collisions and separations, in the quiet tension of forces that have existed since the planet's birth. As you move along this imaginary stage, you notice the mountains. They rise not in a sudden leap but in patient ascension, a spiral of stone reaching ever higher. You imagine the rocks folding like fabric in a seamstress's careful hands, forming ridges and cliffs that reflect the light in subtle patterns. Valleys form in response, deepening as if bowing to the mountain's majesty. Rivers carve paths through them, gentle yet persistent, tracing the slow arcs of water that have flowed for countless generations. You realize the land itself is a storyteller, telling tales of movement, pressure, and time with each contour and crevice. The continents meet in quiet collisions, their edges scraping and grinding with the precision of practiced dancers. Earthquakes ripple through, small yet meaningful, like the snap of a silk ribbon or the sudden intake of breath before a leap. Volcanoes erupt, not with chaos alone, but with creation. Lava flows like molten choreography, adding new layers, reshaping the stage, teaching you that destruction and creation are partners in every movement. The heat beneath your feet, though invisible, is felt in these gestures, a reminder that the earth is alive and breathing, even when it appears still. Beneath the surface, tectonic plates continue their slow voyage. Some glide past one another, like dancers brushing shoulders in a crowded ballroom. Others collide head-on, folding and thrusting into one another, mountains rising in response to their pressure. Subduction zones pull the old crust into the mantle, where it melts and reinvents itself, only to emerge again as new land. You imagine this as a circle of renewal, a cycle as graceful as it is inevitable. Each motion, though unseen, affects the stage above in ways both subtle and dramatic. You wander along a coastline, where land meets sea, observing cliffs that bear the marks of this ancient dance. Waves crash rhythmically against the rock, a liquid percussion accompanying the solid choreography of stone. Beaches stretch like ribbons, collecting sand from distant mountains, shaped over millennia by wind and tide. Every grain holds a fragment of the Earth's history, a quiet memory of collisions, erosions, and the relentless patience of time. You scoop some into your hand, feeling the weight of millions of years as you let the grains slip slowly through your fingers. Continents drift, oceans swell, and yet the dance continues in harmonious imperfection. You feel the earth beneath you as both stage and dancer, a participant in its own symphony. It moves without rushing, reminding you that grandeur is often slow, subtle, and patient. You watch a valley deepen, tracing the curves as rivers meander like soft ribbons, understanding that beauty in this dance is not in speed but in persistence, in the unseen rhythms that guide all creation. Mountains rise higher, not because they demand attention, but because the earth allows them to grow in quiet majesty. Valleys bow, rivers glide, and the continents continue their slow exploration of space, never halting, always transforming. You imagine that if you could stand here for 1 billion years, you would see these dances shift dramatically, rearranging themselves in new formations, creating landscapes both familiar and alien. And yet, even without this vast stretch of time, you feel their movement, subtle and reassuring, beneath your very feet. The dance has a rhythm of patience and persistence. You learn to move with it, feeling the imperceptible flow of magma, the grinding of plates, the rise of mountains, and the bow of valleys. The earth teaches you that time is a partner in all creation. Every subtle motion has its place, every shift its consequence. You close your eyes and imagine yourself as part of this dance, each breath in harmony with the slow heartbeat of the planet. The rhythm is meditative, like waves that rise and fall in a gentle cadence, a song older than any human memory. As night falls over this imagined stage, stars glimmer above, witnessing the quiet performance. You sense the vastness of both sky and land, and how each movement below is mirrored by patterns in the heavens, in cycles and rotations, in orbits and tides. The continent's journey is reflected in the movement of everything around them, reminding you that even the slowest dance can resonate across vast scales of time and space. You step back, observing the Earth's choreography one last time before sleep takes over. Mountains pirouette, valleys bow, and rivers glide like ribbons, each movement part of a symphony millions of years in the making. You realize that the dance will continue, endlessly patient and beautifully intricate, and you carry its quiet rhythm within you, a gentle reminder of the Earth's eternal motion. And as your eyes grow heavy, you wonder what new steps tomorrow's continents might take, how oceans will shift, and which mountains will rise next in the quiet, timeless ballet beneath your feet. You close your eyes and let your awareness sink, not into the sky above, but deep into the earth beneath your feet. Imagine the ground beneath you is not solid and static, but a living, breathing presence. Its surface, the crust, feels familiar and firm, yet beneath it, the world is a secret dance of heat and movement. You sense it as if the earth itself exhales gently through the stones, through the soil, through the roots of trees. Deep below, layers of rock are not hard and immovable, they are softened by heat, melting slowly into rivers of liquid stone. This is the mantle, a vast ocean of glowing minerals moving invisibly. Imagine these molten currents as great, slow rivers, flowing with a patience that stretches across millions of years. They do not rush or struggle. They simply move, guided by the subtle forces of pressure and temperature, shifting the very bones of the earth. The heat that feeds these currents rises from the core, a center of unfathomable energy. The core is the furnace at the heart of our planet, a glowing sphere of iron and nickel. It radiates warmth upward, through solid and semi-solid layers, as if the earth were breathing warmth into itself. You feel this heat as a gentle pulse, a quiet insistence that shapes everything above it, from the mountains to the valleys, from the shifting tectonic plates to the rivers and plains. You imagine standing on a rocky cliff, feeling the ancient energy of the mantle beneath your feet. Though invisible, the molten flows beneath exert a force so immense that they bend continents, open oceans, and create mountain ranges. In this slow, patient motion, there is a quiet poetry. Mountains rise not in a day, but in epochs of quiet persistence, sculpted by the gentle push and pull of molten rivers deep below. These underground currents move through a world of contrasts. They are fluid yet heavy, slow yet unstoppable. You picture them as waves in an ocean too dense for boats, too hot for any life you know. They curl and spiral around obstacles, always seeking equilibrium, always responding to forces that have been at work since the dawn of the planet. You can almost hear them, a low, resonant hum, a song of molten rock vibrating through the deep earth. The earth's crust, thin as a fingernail compared to the vast mantle beneath, rides upon these currents like a raft on a gentle sea. Plates shift, collide, and slide past one another with glacial patience. Some edges lift into towering mountains, others descend into deep trenches, swallowed by the planet's slow churn. You imagine being a witness to these movements, feeling the subtle rise and fall beneath your feet, sensing the patient rhythm of geological time. In this quiet journey, you notice the invisible rivers do not move in straight lines. They twist and curl, forming convection currents, rising where heat is strongest and sinking where it cools. Like smoke curling from a candle, these currents flow in patterns dictated by the invisible laws of physics. You feel a sense of continuity here, a seamless connection between the molten depths and the surface you inhabit. Every rock, every grain of sand, has been touched by these currents at some point in its long history. The magma that moves beneath the crust carries not just heat but also minerals and elements, slowly redistributing them across the planet. You imagine it as an underground gardener, nurturing and rearranging the ingredients of the earth over millions of years. Volcanoes, when they emerge, are simply the visible expressions of this hidden work, molten rivers reaching the surface to remind us of the energy below. You feel awe at the patience required to shape landscapes so immense, so enduring, without hurry or intent, only the quiet insistence of physics. You allow yourself to drift further into this subterranean world. The concept of time here is different. Seconds and minutes are meaningless, even centuries pass like the blink of an eye. You sense the flows of molten rock as if they were breathing organisms, living in rhythms far slower than your own heartbeat. In this deep, warm darkness, the earth feels conscious, not in a human way, but as a patient presence aware of its own movements. Here, in the deep mantle, chemical reactions unfold with a quiet precision. Minerals crystallize, dissolve, and reform in endless cycles. You imagine watching a crystal slowly grow over thousands of years, its edges shaped by currents and temperature, every line a record of the flow that birthed it. The earth is a slow artist, painting landscapes in forms and colors too vast to behold all at once, each feature a testament to the patient work of molten rivers beneath. You sense the boundaries where the mantle meets the crust. These are zones of tension and release, where energy accumulates and eventually transforms into visible movement. Earthquakes and volcanic eruptions are the Earth's size, its expressions of accumulated pressure finally finding an outlet. You feel gratitude for these events, even though they can be destructive, because they remind you of the continuous dance between visible and invisible forces, between surface and depth. The temperature gradient here is astonishing. Deep rocks, melting under heat and pressure, contrast with the cooler crust that you walk upon. You feel the warmth rise through your imagined journey, a gentle caress that reminds you of the life-giving heat at the planet's core. This warmth is not violent, it is nurturing, a slow, steady energy that shapes the world with infinite patience. As you drift along these molten rivers, you notice that nothing here is wasted. Every movement, every flow, every rise and fall contributes to the continual evolution of the planet. Mountains, oceans, rivers, and plains are all byproducts of this hidden symphony. You sense the elegance of natural systems, where even invisible forces have purpose in the greater design of the Earth's life. You imagine tracing a single plume of molten rock as it rises from the deep mantle, curling upward in a spiral of warmth. As it reaches the crust, it may create a volcanic eruption, a new landmass, or it may simply cool beneath the surface, joining the slow, silent reshaping of continents. Each pathway is unique, yet part of a larger, interconnected dance. You feel humility in the face of such patient, monumental work. Finally, you bring your attention back toward the surface. You feel the ground beneath your feet, firm yet dynamic, alive with the hidden rivers that pulse below. You imagine the earth breathing slowly, its warm exhalations shaping your world without hurry or complaint. Mountains stand tall, rivers wind gracefully, and plains stretch endlessly, all held in a delicate balance by flows you cannot see but can sense in the gentle rhythm of existence. And as you linger here, between the surface you know and the molten depths below, you sense a quiet lesson. Patience, persistence, and invisible work shape the world in ways both vast and intimate. The earth moves not in haste but in deliberate, endless rhythm, teaching that even forces unseen can leave marks that endure for eons. The warmth beneath the crust continues its silent journey, never resting, never hurried, always flowing. And somewhere deep below, a river of molten rock begins to curl upward again, hinting at the mountains and valleys that will one day emerge, carrying you forward into the next story of Earth's quiet, persistent transformation. You stand at the edge of a wide valley, where the morning mist clings to every slope like a soft veil. The air tastes faintly of wet stone and pine, and you notice how the ground beneath your feet is not just earth, but a story, written in layers, folded and pressed over millions of years. Mountains rise ahead, ancient and deliberate, as if the planet itself is breathing in slow, careful movements. In your mind's eye, you trace the invisible hands that push these continents together. Imagine two great slabs of the Earth's crust, moving ever so gently, nudging, grinding, colliding. Over centuries, they lift and fold, forming peaks that pierce the sky and valleys that cradle shadow and light. Each fold is a memory, each fracture a whisper of the immense pressure and the patient persistence of forces unseen. The mountains are not abrupt or violent, they are a quiet testimony to time's steady, unwavering rhythm. You walk along a narrow path where stones bear the subtle curve of ancient compression. Your fingers brush against jagged surfaces that seem sharp, yet they hold warmth from the sun. The rocks themselves are archives, layers upon layers of sediment pressed together by slow but relentless force. You sense the sheer patience required for this creation, millions of years of pressure, heat, and subtle shifts that bring forth beauty. It is as if the earth sculpts not with haste, but with a tender precision, knowing that the story it writes cannot be hurried. From this vantage point, the peaks appear almost like the back of a sleeping giant, ridges and slopes forming the gentle curves of a body at rest. You imagine the plates beneath, moving silently, imperceptibly, shifting the foundation of everything you see. And yet, in their invisibility, these movements shape rivers, forests, and the wind's path. Each stream meandering down the slopes carries tiny fragments of the mountain's memory, whispering of ancient pressures, of stone once molten and now frozen in form. The mountains invite reflection. You notice how the light slides along the surfaces, highlighting ridges and carving shadows that seem to breathe with a slow, deliberate rhythm. The sun's glow warms the slopes in patches, creating a mosaic of color, ochre, gray, and the deep green of resilient trees clinging to rock. You feel the paradox of permanence and impermanence here, peaks that will last for millions of years, and yet every storm, every erosion, is quietly reshaping them. Even the strongest mountain is tender in its persistence. Step closer to a ridge, and you can feel the subtle vibrations beneath your feet, the faint reminder that this landscape is alive, not in the way of creatures or trees, but in the slow, deliberate heartbeat of tectonics. You imagine the plates sliding beneath you, pushing against each other, folding, buckling, creating scars that are both violent and beautiful. The folds are gentle in appearance, yet they record a history of immense, unimaginable pressure. Each mountain is a story of persistence, a memoir etched in stone. Looking down into the valley below, you see rivers tracing paths that seem almost playful, weaving and looping as they descend. These waterways are the memory keepers of the mountains, carrying eroded stone, depositing it downstream, slowly shaping new landscapes. Every droplet is a messenger from the heights, reminding you of the quiet work of gravity, flow, and time. You notice the trees along the riverbanks, their roots gripping stubbornly into the soil, thriving in the fertile sediments left behind. Life and geology are intertwined in a dance older than memory. As you continue your walk, you encounter cliffs where rock faces rise sharply, and you realize that the mountains are more than static objects. They are archives of energy, pressure, and history. The minerals tell you stories of heat deep below, where rock once flowed like liquid before cooling into rigid forms. You touch the stone and sense the patience required, the way time accumulates silently, layer upon layer, until these titanic structures emerge. There is a poetry in this, a reminder that not all creation is loud, some of it is measured, slow, enduring. High above, clouds gather around the peaks, softening their edges. You watch as wind sculpts the mist, and your mind drifts to the invisible forces below, moving continents, shaping the crust, molding the mountains as surely as a sculptor's hands guide clay. It is almost meditative to think of the slow collision of plates beneath your feet, a process so gradual that you feel it only in hindsight, in the peaks and valleys, in the rivers and ridges that map out an ancient choreography. These mountains are patience made tangible, the earth's quiet persistence written in stone. You pause to rest on a rock, feeling its cool surface against your skin, and notice how small you feel against the enormity of the landscape. Yet there is comfort in this smallness. The mountains have endured storms, ice, wind, and heat. They have persisted through epochs and extinctions, holding memory in every layer of stone. There is a gentle reassurance here, that time is vast, that the forces of creation and transformation move steadily, even when unseen. To witness this is to witness resilience itself. Your eyes follow a distant ridge, where sunlight glimmers on frost-tipped peaks. You imagine the energy stored in the colliding plates beneath, potential locked in stone, ready to release over millennia. There is a silent dialogue between pressure and release, between compression and erosion, shaping not only the mountains but the lives of all that surround them. The rocks teach you about endurance, the rivers about memory, and the forests about adaptability. Everything responds to subtle forces, adjusting in rhythm with the slow pulse of the earth. In the quiet of this moment, you feel connected to something immense, a sense of continuity that stretches beyond the immediate, beyond the visible. Mountains are reminders that creation often unfolds invisibly, in slow increments, and that even the grandest forms emerge from patience and persistence. Their peaks whisper to the skies, and their valleys cradle life, all the while teaching you that the beauty of the world is inseparable from the forces that shape it. As the sun begins its descent, shadows lengthen across the valley, painting the mountains with soft streaks of amber and gray. The peaks seem almost alive in the changing light, breathing slowly, imperceptibly, as if acknowledging the passage of time. You inhale the crisp air, carrying faint scents of pine, stone, and distant water, feeling a profound calm settle in your chest. In the quiet, you imagine the next chapter of this story, what comes after the shaping, the pressing, the folding. What stories will the rivers carry tomorrow, and how will the landscape continue its silent conversation with time? The mountains stand before you, patient, enduring, and tender in their persistence, a landscape shaped by forces that move imperceptibly yet leave permanent marks. You feel the weight of time, the quiet resilience of stone, and the gentle pull of the world beneath your feet. And as your gaze drifts from peak to peak, you sense that the story of mountains is not finished, it is only paused, waiting to be told in the next movement of Earth's invisible, endless dance. Close your eyes and imagine the surface of the ocean. The sunlight filters softly through the water, scattering in gentle beams that dance and shimmer. Above you, the waves ripple slowly, each one a whisper from the sky. Yet as you drift deeper, you sense a quiet, deliberate world unfolding far beneath the surface, where light fades and the vastness stretches like a dark, sleeping desert. Here, in these depths, the rhythm of the planet itself becomes apparent, slow and patient, like a heartbeat you can almost feel in your chest. The ocean floor is not a flat, silent stage. It is alive with motion, though it moves too slowly for a human eye to see. Here, tectonic plates pull apart, drifting in a delicate dance. Imagine standing on a ridge of newly forming rock, the molten crust bubbling faintly under your feet. Magma rises from deep within the earth, bright and molten, carving new landscapes beneath the waves. It cools immediately in the cold embrace of the water, hardening into intricate formations that will eventually stretch for thousands of miles, hidden from the eyes of most of the world. As you move along this submarine ridge, you notice valleys and canyons carved over millennia. They are not just hollow spaces, they are the contours of the planet's history, gentle scars that tell stories of past collisions, eruptions, and shifts. Imagine the weight of these formations pressing down through the water above, invisible yet shaping every current, every wave that reaches the shore you know. You might think of the ocean as serene, calm, but beneath it, the earth is constantly breathing, growing, and reshaping itself. Vents in the ocean floor glow faintly, tiny lighthouses in a world of darkness. These hydrothermal vents release heat and minerals from the Earth's interior, creating pockets of life in an otherwise cold expanse. Microbes cling to the vent surfaces, feeding on chemicals that seem inhospitable yet sustain entire ecosystems. Here, life exists in a delicate balance, born not from sunlight but from the deep energy of the planet. Fish with translucent bodies swim lazily through the inky blackness, their fins glinting faintly as if reflecting the distant stars above the surface. You might feel small, even insignificant, but notice that every creature here has its place in this unseen world, and every action contributes to the rhythm of the deep. Imagine the ridges stretching endlessly beneath you, like veins carrying the lifeblood of the earth. The mid-ocean ridge, the longest mountain range on the planet, winds across the globe, largely invisible but essential. Each ridge is a seam where new crust is born, where the earth quietly renews itself. You feel the slow pulse of creation, the subtle movement of rock, the careful push of tectonic plates. There is no hurry here, no abruptness, only a patient, eternal unfolding that mirrors the rhythm of your own breathing if you listen closely. Between these ridges lie deep valleys, trenches that plunge into darkness. Some are unimaginably deep, carved by forces so immense they challenge comprehension. As you float above one of these trenches, the walls drop sharply away, layers of sediment and rock stacked like pages in a book. Each layer holds memories of ancient oceans, long-extinct creatures, and shifting continents. It is as if the earth itself keeps a diary, writing slowly in stone and water, leaving traces that only the patient or the curious can read. Everywhere you look, there is movement, subtle yet unstoppable. Magma continues to seep upward, slowly adding to the ocean floor. Tectonic plates grind past one another, sometimes quietly, sometimes with explosive energy. Mountains form, erode, and vanish, islands rise and sink, the earth reshapes itself without ceremony. You feel a quiet awe, sensing that even though these changes are imperceptible in a human lifetime, they are fundamental to the planet's being. Every wave that laps at a distant shore, every grain of sand underfoot, owes its existence to these hidden motions. Beneath the waves, the rhythm is more than just geology. It is a symphony of forces, each one interacting with another. Currents sweep over the ocean floor, carrying warmth and nutrients, shaping ecosystems. Minerals from deep vents feed life forms, which in turn influence the surrounding water chemistry. Even in this silence, there is conversation, between rock and water, heat and cold, life and environment. You begin to sense that the ocean floor is not simply a backdrop to the surface world but a living, dynamic entity, intertwined with the planet's entire system. Consider the ridges and valleys as the Earth's pulse. Each ridge is a heartbeat, steady and unrelenting, spreading outward in every direction. You feel it beneath your imaginary feet, a reassurance that the planet is not inert but responsive, alive in ways that are invisible yet fundamental. The motions you witness here ripple upward, eventually influencing the weather, the tides, the shape of coastlines, and even the climate patterns that govern life above water. The hidden world beneath the waves is, in truth, the foundation of everything you touch and see in the sunlight. As you drift further along the ocean floor, notice the colors, faint but unmistakable if you imagine them clearly. Dark basalt rocks speckled with metallic minerals glint under your attention. Streams of bubbles rise from vents, dissolving slowly as they reach toward the surface. Life flickers in the darkness, small, pale fish, resilient in a realm without sun. Each organism is a testament to adaptation, thriving in a place where survival depends on the heat and chemistry of the earth itself. It is a quiet lesson in persistence, reminding you that life finds a way even in the most hidden corners. The journey along these submerged landscapes encourages reflection. You realize that most of the planet's changes are hidden, slow, and often imperceptible. And yet, these processes are fundamental, shaping the contours of continents, influencing climate, and supporting ecosystems both above and below water. The ocean floor is a reminder that much of life and creation occurs quietly, far from observation, yet it is no less powerful or beautiful for being hidden. You carry a sense of wonder, knowing that beneath every wave, the earth is continually writing its story, patient and eternal. In this vast, quiet expanse, you notice the connections. The ridges you drift along will one day create mountains. The trenches hold minerals that nourish the ocean and beyond. The currents born from these hidden forms influence winds and weather, the migration of animals, and the rhythms of human life along distant coasts. The unseen motions beneath the waves remind you that everything in nature is linked, forming a tapestry of cause and effect, of action and response. You are part of this connection simply by being aware, simply by imagining, simply by listening to the slow, deliberate pulse of the planet. As the chapter draws to a close, let your mind linger on the beauty of this hidden world. Picture the glowing vents, the rising magma, the deep, silent valleys. Sense the patient motion of tectonic plates, the quiet yet unyielding force that shapes everything above. Imagine the soft light of distant creatures, tiny sparks of life in darkness. Feel the pulse beneath your feet, a rhythm that continues whether you observe it or not. And as you slowly ascend, letting the ocean floor fade from view, carry with you the understanding that beneath the surface, the earth is alive, breathing, and ever-changing. The waves above await, but the secrets below remain, gently urging you to remember that the hidden world is never truly silent, and its quiet movements will carry you toward the next unfolding mystery of the planet. You lie quietly on the Earth's gentle curve, feeling the subtle heartbeat beneath your feet. The ground hums in low whispers, vibrations too small for most senses to notice, yet unmistakable if you pause and listen. Imagine the crust as a vast, restless skin, stretched and folded, with invisible lines marking where it might give way. These lines, called faults, are like invisible seams holding the planet together, each one waiting, shifting imperceptibly, then releasing with sudden grace. You feel as if you are touching the pulse of the planet itself. In this hidden world below, stress builds slowly, almost patiently, like water accumulating behind a dam. Layers of rock, dense and heavy, press against one another. You might picture them as old friends leaning on each other for support, until the weight becomes too much. Then, in a quiet moment of inevitability, one layer slips past another, and the earth sighs. That sigh is a tremor, a message traveling through stone, carrying with it the history of countless movements that preceded it. You imagine standing beside a fault line, your hand pressed lightly against a jagged wall of granite. It feels unyielding, permanent, yet beneath its surface, time itself is bending, storing energy like a hidden reservoir. Each shift, whether as tiny as a pinprick or as vast as a rolling mountain, reshapes the land slowly. Valleys deepen, cliffs crack, and rivers redirect, all orchestrated by forces so immense they are almost beyond comprehension. Yet, each of these changes happens gently enough to whisper, rather than shout. As the trembling begins, you sense a rhythm. The first vibrations are faint, like the soft tremor of a leaf falling in a distant forest. They travel in waves, moving outward, through rock and soil, each particle nudging its neighbor in a quiet dance. You feel them in your toes, in the soles of your feet, sometimes in your chest. Your body becomes an instrument, resonating with the heartbeat of the earth. Scientists call these waves seismic waves, but you prefer to think of them as the language of stone, a conversation older than any written word. The world above may seem still, but beneath, tension and release are constant companions. Rocks press, grind, and sometimes fracture, creating subtle music. There is a poetry in this process, a reminder that calm and motion coexist. Just as your own breath rises and falls without effort, the planet's crust moves in cycles of accumulation and release, unseen yet deeply felt. Each tremor carries information, the story of how rocks interact, how pressure is distributed, and how energy travels through a solid world. You begin to see the earth not as inert, but as alive, speaking in vibrations that ripple across centuries. Sometimes the tremors are small enough to go unnoticed, barely more than a suggestion of movement. You can imagine tiny earthquakes, so subtle that only delicate instruments detect them, shifting fractions of a millimeter. Yet even these smallest quivers carry significance. They are the gentle exhalations of the earth, hinting at the intricate mechanics below. Each tiny adjustment reduces tension slightly, like a whispered secret passed from one rock to the next, postponing larger, more dramatic events. Other times, the earth expresses itself more boldly. When energy has built up for decades, centuries, or even millennia, the release can be sudden, jolting everything in its path. Trees sway, buildings shiver, and the ground rises and falls in waves. In those moments, you feel the power of forces far older and greater than yourself. And yet, even the strongest quake is part of the same story as the gentlest tremor. Both are chapters in the ongoing saga of pressure, friction, and release. Imagine tracing the path of a seismic wave from its origin deep underground to the surface. You can picture it moving like a ripple across a pond, radiating in circles, touching everything in its path. Instruments called seismographs record these movements, translating vibrations into lines on paper, a visual echo of invisible motion. You see that even a single quake is not a moment but a journey, energy traveling, interacting, and finally dissipating. It is here, in the quiet contemplation of these movements, that you notice the subtle beauty of tension. Rocks can only bend so far before they shift, and this limitation is not a flaw, but a rhythm. You think about how the planet's surface is a mosaic of plates, each moving imperceptibly, colliding, pulling apart, sliding past one another. Some meet in gentle nuzzles, forming rolling hills and valleys, others clash violently, pushing mountains skyward or opening rifts that will someday become oceans. In every motion, the earth is writing its own autobiography in the language of pressure and vibration. You breathe slowly, matching your exhalation to the imagined size of rock and soil. There is a meditative quality in imagining these immense timescales, in sensing the patient patience of the planet. Human life is brief in comparison, a single exhalation in the life of the Earth, yet you are part of this ongoing story. By listening, by imagining, you connect your own rhythm to the pulse beneath your feet. There is a quiet reassurance in knowing that tension, when released, brings renewal, new land, new possibilities, a reshaping of the world that has always been part of the planet's method. Even as you lie in this awareness, you feel the trembling continue softly. Not all shifts are destructive, some are nearly imperceptible, barely moving the surface, yet each one is significant. They remind you that stability is a delicate balance, and that change is constant, inevitable, and often gentle. You consider how this mirrors your own life, moments of pressure, small releases, the slow unfolding of understanding and growth. There is comfort in the rhythm, in the knowledge that tension, when acknowledged and released, becomes part of a larger pattern. The Earth, in its patient wisdom, teaches you a final lesson in this quiet moment. Vibrations that ripple unseen and unheard are not meaningless, they are messages. Each whisper of the crust, each tremor that passes like a secret, carries information about the world's inner workings. Listening closely, you begin to sense the connections, how one shift may trigger another, how energy moves in waves, and how everything is interdependent. Even the smallest tremor can ripple across time and space, part of a network of cause and effect that stretches far beyond what you can see. You close your eyes, feeling the echoes of these movements beneath you. The planet's pulse becomes a lullaby, gentle and rhythmic. You imagine the fault stretching, the layers of rock adjusting imperceptibly, the energy flowing silently through stone. There is no rush, no urgency, only the steady, patient cadence of a world in motion. And in that cadence, you find yourself attuned not only to the science of the Earth but to the poetry of its existence, the quiet stories told in trembling waves. As the tremors fade to a soft, lingering resonance, you sense the continuity of it all. The Earth has whispered its secrets, shared its memory, and left space for reflection. You are aware now that beneath the calm surface, the planet is alive, moving, speaking in gentle pulses that echo across time. Each tremor, each vibration, is part of an unending story, a rhythm that will continue long after this night, long after this moment. You begin by imagining the Earth as a living, breathing being. Its heartbeat is slow and deep, measured in geological time, yet palpable when you pause and listen. Beneath your feet, the crust feels solid, dependable, but you know it floats atop a restless layer of molten rock. You can picture the heat, the pressures, the slow convection currents that carry the warmth of the planet toward its surface. It is as if the Earth exhales through the cracks, the mountains, the fissures, its breath fiery, patient, deliberate. Volcanoes are its lungs, inhaling from deep within and exhaling molten dreams across the landscape. You see a distant plume of smoke rising into the sky, twisting in soft spirals, each curl a sigh of transformation. Lava emerges, fluid and warm, flowing like thick honey over rocks and soil. You feel the rhythm in your own chest as if your heartbeat is echoing the planet's pulse. The molten rivers carve new valleys, reshape old ones, and as they cool, they leave blackened crusts that will eventually cradle life. In every eruption, there is destruction, yes, but also creation. It is a dance older than time itself, and you are a quiet witness to it. Your mind wanders to the scale of it all. The molten interior is unimaginably vast, hotter than any fire you have ever known. Minerals melt and swirl, heavier elements sinking, lighter ones rising, creating a slow, deliberate convection that has been ongoing since the planet's formation. These hidden currents are the engine of continents, of mountains, of the deep ocean basins. You imagine the magma rising slowly through fissures, pushing aside rock that has been solid for millions of years, until it finally reaches the surface and pours into the light. Each eruption is a story, a chapter of the Earth's life written in glowing, molten ink. You step closer, imagining the heat radiating outward. It is an energy both violent and gentle, destructive and nurturing. Forests that once stood in the path may be swept away, but the soil left behind is richer, more fertile, holding the memory of fire and the promise of rebirth. Life finds a way. Mosses and grasses, then shrubs and trees, will grow over the blackened earth. Insects and birds will return, drawn to the warmth and the nutrients. You sense a cycle of patient transformation, a reminder that even in chaos, the universe has a rhythm. Looking closer at the lava surface, you notice the textures, some glossy and smooth, others jagged and broken. There are rivers of fire that fold over themselves, creating intricate patterns, a molten lace that cools into solid stone. You trace the lines with your imagination, as though reading an ancient script. You can almost hear the subtle hissing of steam, the faint cracking as the molten rock cools and contracts. Time itself seems to slow here, each moment stretched into eternity, allowing you to observe the planet at work in a way that everyday life rarely permits. You feel a kinship with the Earth's slow breathing. Just as your own chest rises and falls with calm, meditative awareness, so does the planet expand and contract, reshaping itself imperceptibly over centuries. You realize that what feels static is actually in constant motion, a fluid ballet hidden beneath the surface. Mountains you assumed were eternal are merely cooled magma, frozen mid-dance. Valleys, rivers, and lakes are carved not only by water but by the heat and pressure of deep, relentless forces. The Earth is alive in ways subtle and profound. Your thoughts drift to the people who live near volcanoes, those who feel the Earth's breaths more intimately. You imagine the gentle hum of anticipation, the careful respect for the land's power, the reverent observation of its moods. Communities adapt, thrive, and evolve alongside the fire beneath their feet. Homes are built with knowledge of the terrain, traditions honor the forces of creation and destruction, and culture itself grows from a delicate understanding of balance. There is a humility in this awareness, a quiet gratitude for the rhythm that governs their lives. Even when disaster strikes, the Earth's breath continues, unhurried and impartial. Lava flows will eventually cool, ash will settle, and life will reclaim what it can. You see this as a metaphor, gentle yet profound. Transformation often arrives in forms that feel overwhelming, but it is never final. There is a continuity, an underlying intention that persists beyond immediate perception. Just as the Earth does not resist its own internal rhythms, you too can learn to flow with the natural cycles of change in your own life. You imagine observing the lava from a safe distance as night falls. The glowing rivers illuminate the landscape, casting shadows that stretch like long fingers across cooled black rock. Stars appear in the sky, distant suns echoing the fiery heart of your own planet. The contrast between the vast, cold cosmos and the molten warmth beneath your feet is breathtaking. You feel a quiet awe at the scales of energy and time that surround you, the interplay of light and heat, fire and stone, destruction and creation. The Earth's breath is slow and deliberate, a reminder that patience and rhythm are woven into the fabric of existence. Moving closer to a dormant crater, you imagine the history it carries. Layers of ash, lava, and rock tell stories of eruptions long past, each one leaving traces that scientists study to understand the planet's behavior. You see yourself as part of this ongoing observation, a witness to an unbroken cycle that began before humans ever walked the Earth. The crater is silent now, but you can feel the echoes of heat and movement below, a subtle vibration that reminds you life is never truly still. Even in repose, the planet prepares for the next breath, the next flow, the next transformation. You trace your fingers along cooled rocks, feeling the texture, the history embedded within. The mineral patterns are unique, each one a signature of pressure, temperature, and time. You consider how these elements combine to create the diverse landscapes of our world: jagged peaks, fertile plains, rich soils, deep canyons. It is a reminder that creation and destruction are inseparable, two sides of the same cosmic coin. Observing this, you feel a gentle kinship with the planet, a recognition of your own place within its slow, enduring rhythms. As your awareness expands, you reflect on the interconnectedness of all things. The molten rock that forms a mountain today may one day crumble to nourish a forest. Volcanic ash can travel across oceans, enriching distant soils and enabling life far from its origin. The Earth's breath reaches beyond immediate perception, affecting climates, ecosystems, and human communities alike. You see the elegance of cause and effect, the quiet poetry of forces that are invisible yet omnipresent, shaping life with patience and precision. Your mind drifts to the ways humans have harnessed this energy. Geothermal vents provide warmth and power, tapping into the Earth's internal furnace in sustainable ways. You marvel at the ingenuity and curiosity that allow us to witness, study, and even use the planet's own breath without disturbing its rhythm. In this, you sense a partnership between observer and observed, a recognition that respect and understanding enable coexistence. The Earth's forces are not enemies to be conquered but companions in a slow, unfolding story of life. Finally, you sit quietly, imagining the Earth exhaling one more time. A plume of smoke rises gently into the sky, carrying with it heat, minerals, and the promise of renewal. The molten rivers shimmer under the setting sun, their movements graceful, deliberate. You breathe with the planet, slow and steady, feeling the pulse of life that extends beneath your feet and beyond your sight. There is a lesson here in patience, in rhythm, in the quiet power of forces that persist regardless of immediate perception. The Earth reminds you that even in destruction, there is creation, that life thrives in the spaces shaped by fire and stone, and that every breath, every flow, every eruption is part of a story larger than any single moment. You feel your heartbeat align with the slow cadence of molten rock and shifting land, a gentle connection that bridges your own temporal existence with the timeless rhythms of the planet. And as night deepens and the stars watch silently, you realize that the next breath, the next flow, the next transformation, is always waiting, just beyond the horizon of your awareness. You lie back and imagine the Earth beneath you, not as solid and fixed, but as a breathing, shifting body. Beneath the surface, hidden from your eyes, immense forces quietly move mountains, oceans, and plains. The ground you feel beneath your hands is not stationary, it is floating, drifting, and stretching over eons. These are the tectonic plates, vast slabs of rock, slowly shifting like gentle rafts on a molten sea below. Their movement is imperceptible in a human lifetime, but relentless in the life of the planet. Deep beneath the crust, in the mantle, heat rises from the planet's core. It is not the sharp heat of a flame, but a slow, patient warmth, creeping and bending the solid rock like honey over centuries. This rising heat drives convection currents, soft rivers of rock flowing beneath the rigid plates. These currents tug and push, guiding the continents as they slide, grind, and rotate. Every mountain, valley, and ocean basin owes its place to this quiet, invisible force. You can almost feel it, a subtle pull beneath your feet, like the gentle tug of a friend's hand, unseen but reassuring. Imagine a plate as a leaf drifting on a calm river. The river is molten rock, moving slowly, almost unnoticed, yet it has power to carry, rotate, and rearrange the leaves along its path. Sometimes the leaves drift apart, sometimes they collide, folding, compressing, and buckling in response. These movements are not chaotic, they follow patterns dictated by density, gravity, and heat. Where the plates pull apart, molten rock rises, forming new crust as if the Earth itself is breathing, exhaling new land into existence. Where they collide, mountains are pushed skyward, towering peaks that seem eternal but are, in fact, the result of patient pressure applied over millions of years. You can imagine the continents as dancers in a slow waltz. Africa drifts northward, Europe waits, Antarctica spins gracefully at the bottom of the world. North America gently moves westward, brushing against the Pacific's edge, where volcanic mountains are born. Each plate has its rhythm, its pace, and yet all are connected. One plate's motion affects another, like a domino of imperceptible gestures. The Earth beneath you is alive in this quiet choreography, moving not with sudden leaps, but with patient, persistent intent. Gravity itself plays its part. It is subtle, a constant tug towards the center of the planet. It pulls denser rocks downward, lighter rocks upward, shaping the mantle's flow and guiding the plates. The ridges and valleys you see are but the surface reflections of this grand, invisible architecture. Mid-ocean ridges, submarine mountains, and deep ocean trenches are sculpted by the balance between pull and push, between the lightness and heaviness of rock. Even in the silence of night, this gravitational conversation continues, unseen but omnipresent, reminding you that even massive forces can move slowly, gently, yet persistently. Consider the fractures that form at plate boundaries. These faults are not violent by necessity, they are the Earth's way of communicating, of adjusting to the slow dance. Sometimes they slip quietly, releasing small tremors, almost unnoticed. Sometimes they build tension over centuries, only to release it in a sudden shift that reminds us of the power beneath. Each fault line is a record of this dialogue, a history written in stone, a whisper of patience, endurance, and change. In this, there is a lesson: even immense pressure can be resolved gradually, with time and care, rather than through immediate upheaval. Volcanoes are another expression of this patient, hidden movement. Magma rises not in haste, but through fractures opened by slowly shifting plates. Each eruption is a conversation between the depths and the surface, an intimate disclosure of the Earth's internal warmth. Lava flows, once molten, cool into new layers of crust, creating landscapes that will eventually support life. Think of the islands in the Pacific, like Hawaii, growing from repeated, patient offerings of molten rock. Life itself finds its foothold in these slow movements, reminding you that creation often requires time, persistence, and subtle shaping forces. The oceans themselves respond to these movements. As plates drift, they shape the basins where waters gather. Currents are guided not only by wind and temperature, but by the slow rise and fall of the seafloor. Imagine the Atlantic widening over millions of years, while the Pacific slowly shrinks, oceans breathing with the planet's motions. Submarine mountains, cliffs, and trenches form invisible topographies, guiding water and life in patterns imperceptible to a single human glance. This gentle tugging beneath the waves mirrors the motion beneath your feet, a reminder that even in vast, seemingly immutable structures, motion persists quietly. Now picture the slow creation of mountains. The Himalayas, pushed skyward by the collision of the Indian and Eurasian plates, did not rise overnight. They are the result of eons of slow compression, layer upon layer of sedimentary rock folded and elevated with patience beyond human comprehension. Snow gathers at their peaks, rivers carve valleys, and forests cling to their slopes. Every step you imagine taking along these mountains is a journey over layers of patient geological effort, each telling a story of unseen forces and relentless time. Mountains are not monuments of speed, but of steady, persistent shaping, a reminder that beauty can be the result of enduring patience. Even beneath our cities and roads, the story continues. Beneath asphalt and concrete, plates shift imperceptibly. Earthquakes remind us occasionally of this motion, but mostly, it flows silently, shaping the world without immediate notice. Imagine the subtle rise and fall of a continent over centuries, barely perceptible to those who walk upon it. The land is alive, moving in patterns that teach patience, resilience, and the profound wisdom of slow change. There is poetry in this invisibility, the quiet persistence of forces that shape all we see and touch, hidden yet omnipresent. You may now close your eyes and sense this motion under your own feet. The continents drift as if breathing, plates interact as if dancing, and the planet carries on its patient rhythm. Imagine being a tiny observer in this immense, slow-moving world, where heat, density, and gravity conspire in quiet harmony to craft mountains, valleys, oceans, and plains. The earth teaches you a lesson in patience. All motion, no matter how imperceptible, has impact. Every subtle shift matters. Every slow movement contributes to the story of life on this planet. In this awareness, you feel a soft connection to the earth. You are part of its rhythm, your heartbeat syncing in some small, invisible way with the pull and push of tectonic forces. There is a gentle reminder here: life, like the plates beneath, unfolds in layers of time, in movements often unseen, yet profoundly real. The mountains you admire, the oceans you watch, even the ground you rest upon, all carry the memory of patient motion. And as you drift in thought, you begin to wonder, if the earth moves with such silent persistence, what stories lie hidden in the air above, in the currents of wind and clouds, in the orbit of planets that watch this slow dance from afar? You pick up a stone. Its surface is cool, smooth, or perhaps a little rough beneath your fingers. In this simple touch, time folds in on itself. Beneath your skin, the history of the earth waits patiently. Each layer of rock, each mineral grain, is a letter in a story written long before your presence, long before you imagined you could hold it. Consider the soft, crumbling sedimentary stones that form in gentle layers, like the pages of a diary. Each thin sheet was once part of a seabed, a river delta, or a windswept desert. Over centuries, sand, mud, and tiny fragments of shells pressed together, compacting and hardening into rock. You can almost hear the hush of these ancient waters, the sigh of wind through dunes, preserved in quiet folds. Fossils embedded within are the lingering shadows of life, shells, leaves, tiny creatures that once swam, crawled, or floated on currents. Their forms are delicate impressions, reminders of the creature's fleeting dances, preserved in stone for you to see and gently trace with thought. You notice the sparkle of a quartz crystal embedded in the rock. Light catches its surface, refracting tiny rainbows into your mind's eye. Quartz forms in slow patience, molecule by molecule, in caverns where water drips eternally, depositing silica in precise layers. These stones are patience made tangible. They remind you that the slow accumulation of moments, of changes invisible to the eye, creates patterns of infinite beauty and order. You imagine yourself as part of this continuum, a fleeting observer in a world that moves at the pace of stone. Now, you touch a fossilized leaf. Its veins imprint the past into your present, delicate lines drawn by nature's own hand. You feel the tree's life echoing softly, as if the wind that once rustled through its leaves still whispers here, across millennia. Fossils are not just remnants, they are echoes of past breaths, faint fingerprints of life, guiding your imagination gently through time. You begin to sense that each stone is a quiet witness, holding memory without need for words. Think of limestone cliffs rising from the earth, carved by water, wind, and patience. Layers upon layers show subtle shifts in color and texture, an archive of eons. Some layers are lighter, filled with the remnants of ancient seas, some darker, richer with organic matter. Run your hands along these imaginary surfaces and feel the rhythm of time itself. Notice how small changes, imperceptible in a single moment, create monumental landscapes over centuries. This is patience written on a geological canvas, a reminder that even slow processes matter, that quiet persistence shapes worlds. Metamorphic stones tell another story. Slate, marble, and schist have endured fire and pressure, transformed beneath the earth in secret chambers of heat and weight. They were once sedimentary layers, soft and pliable, now folded and hardened into elegant, glimmering forms. Imagine the heat deep in the crust, the force pressing down for millions of years. The rock's original identity changes, yet the essence remains, a memory preserved, a record of transformation. You see in this the lesson that change need not erase, it can refine, reshape, and make something beautiful and enduring. Granite is different, composed of interlocking crystals of quartz, feldspar, and mica. Each crystal grew slowly, a silent witness to the molten depths of the earth. When granite surfaces, often after glaciers scrape away softer layers above, it reveals a frozen, ordered chaos, a crystalline dance halted in time. You consider your own life's patterns, moments interweaving, forming structures you may not notice until you step back and observe the whole. The rock's intricate balance mirrors your own complex experiences, layered and interconnected in ways that are only visible in retrospect. The pebbles you find by a stream tell stories of movement. Water tumbles them, smooths them, wears them round. Each one has traveled far, broken off cliffs or riverbeds, carried along currents, polished by friction and time. There is a rhythm in their journey, a meditative pace, teaching you that even the smallest, simplest stone holds a story of transformation and motion. You imagine the river as a slow pulse through the earth, and yourself as a gentle observer, noticing how every element, however small, participates in the great dance of change. You pause at the sight of obsidian, black and glassy. Its surface reflects light like a liquid mirror, yet it was born in fire, cooled so rapidly that crystals did not form. Obsidian is a memory of sudden change, a record of energy and heat caught and preserved. In its smooth darkness, you see the contrast between slow processes and sudden moments, how both are recorded in the Earth's diary. You feel the presence of forces far beyond your own, yet intimately accessible through touch and imagination. Turn your gaze to the cliffs that stretch toward the horizon, layers stacked like stories waiting to be read. Imagine each stratum as a chapter in the Earth's memoir. Some layers tell of tropical seas filled with coral and tiny shells. Others hint at desert winds that swept fine sand over barren landscapes. Fossils peek from between these layers, whispers of life forms that flourished, struggled, and disappeared long before you arrived. Each stone is a word, each layer a sentence, and together they form a narrative you can gently trace with your mind, moving from moment to moment across vast time. As you walk along this imagined landscape, your fingers brushing the stones, you realize that time itself is a patient teacher. The earth does not rush, it records, it layers, it preserves. You begin to feel a kinship with the slow, deliberate pace of geological processes, a reminder to breathe and observe, to let understanding accumulate quietly. The rock's quiet memory becomes your own, a shared awareness of continuity, resilience, and the subtle power of gradual change. Even the smallest grain of sand can speak of mountains worn down, of rivers that have traveled thousands of miles, of glacier that once pressed against the land. You hold a pebble and understand its journey, its origins traced across eons. Each stone is a meditation, each texture and color a note in a symphony of time. You find yourself listening not only to the history held in rock but also to the quiet stories of your own life, the small transformations and accumulations that shape you, often unnoticed. And now, consider the way minerals shimmer inside these stones. Tiny reflections remind you that even within seeming stillness, there is life, movement, and potential. Just as quartz refracts light, our understanding and wonder can refract knowledge into perception, revealing hidden layers of beauty. Rocks, in their silent patience, teach the gentle rhythm of observation, to notice, to wonder, to trace the story without hurrying. The stones you see, touch, and imagine are not just objects, they are companions in time. They speak of oceans that rose and fell, of forests that grew and faded, of creatures that existed in spaces you can only dream of. You begin to feel the continuity that stretches from deep geological past to your quiet present. The earth holds its memories with care, and in observing, you participate in this gentle conversation. And so, you leave the stones for now, but their stories linger. The memory of seas, forests, and creatures whispers in your mind. You feel the pulse of time beneath your feet, the layered patience of the planet, and a quiet awareness of the interconnectedness of all things. And as you step forward, your mind drifts toward the hidden forces beneath the surface, the slow, molten movements that shape continents, the unseen currents that bend the very ground, inviting your curiosity to flow deeper into the Earth's unfolding tale. You lie quietly, listening. Beneath your feet, beneath the soil and rock, the Earth breathes with a rhythm that is slow, measured, and profound. It is a heartbeat that predates the earliest whispers of human civilization, a pulse that has carried continents across oceans and sculpted the skies over millennia. You imagine yourself as a small observer, a gentle witness to the patient choreography of the planet. Nothing is rushed here. The mountains do not hurry to form, nor do the rivers strain to carve their valleys. Everything moves in deliberate, measured time. Think of a mountain, its massive frame emerging from the earth with imperceptible patience. Each layer of stone, each fold in the rock, tells a story of pressure, heat, and time. What seems solid and permanent to your human eyes is actually an unfolding tale, a transformation that stretches across millions of years. The mountain is growing, slowly lifting itself from the crust, yet it does so with a gentleness that mirrors your own quiet breath. As you breathe in, imagine the stone layers pressing together, shaping themselves imperceptibly, whispering to each other across vast eons. This is a conversation without words, a dialogue of resilience and gravity, of heat that bends rock and patience that never tires. Now, let your attention drift to the oceans. Vast, fluid, infinite. The waves you hear are only the surface echoes of movements that happen deep beneath. Tectonic plates, colossal and hidden, shift imperceptibly beneath the waters, nudging continents along invisible paths. Oceans rise and fall with the slow rhythm of currents, carrying salt, life, and warmth in a pattern older than memory. The water you see glistening under the sun today has been shaped by tides, by winds, and by the gentle tilting of the earth itself over millions of years. Imagine these layers, one atop the other, like the pages of a book you can never finish reading. Every wave, every ripple, is a note in the symphony of planetary motion. Beneath your feet and under the oceans, the crust moves. Continental plates glide, sometimes colliding, sometimes sliding past one another. This motion is so gradual that it is almost imperceptible in a single human lifetime. Yet over thousands and millions of years, the movement reshapes the face of the world. Valleys deepen, mountains rise, new lands appear, and old lands disappear. You feel a profound sense of calm, realizing that everything has a place and a pace. Nothing is abrupt, nothing is hurried. The earth takes its time. As you sink deeper into this meditation, imagine the forests that cling to mountainsides, the deserts that stretch across ancient soils, the rivers carving canyons in slow devotion. Each ecosystem is part of this larger rhythm, responding to the patient heartbeat of the planet. Trees grow, bending toward the light, their roots whispering to the soil, absorbing nutrients shaped by centuries of sedimentation and erosion. Even the smallest insects participate in this grand cadence, their lives entwined with the cycle of water, wind, and stone. You sense a gentle interconnectedness, as if your own breathing is part of the same ancient pulse. Time in this realm is different. Human clocks, schedules, and deadlines fade into irrelevance. Here, seconds stretch and fold into centuries. You are invited to move slowly, to feel the gentle undulations of geological time in your own heartbeat. The earth is patient, and in its patience, it teaches you something essential, that growth, change, and transformation do not require hurry. The mountains, the oceans, the drifting continents, all unfold on a timescale that encourages serenity, reflection, and awe. Consider the forces that mold the planet: pressure, heat, gravity, and chemical change. These are not violent forces in the human sense, not abrupt or cruel, but quiet and persistent. The pressure that folds rocks into mountains works slowly, layer by layer. The heat within the earth softens and shapes materials that seem rigid, allowing slow movements that carry continents on invisible currents. Gravity tugs gently at everything, guiding rivers, shaping valleys, and orchestrating the tides. Each force works in concert with the others, a patient symphony that sustains the planet's rhythm. You can feel a soft echo of this order within yourself, a reminder that patience, persistence, and quiet energy can achieve astonishing transformation. Now, imagine the continents themselves, enormous and ancient, drifting across the globe like slow-moving dancers. They have collided, separated, and reunited countless times. Africa and Europe, once joined, now rest apart. The Americas are still moving westward, ever so gradually. You visualize the slow drift, almost imperceptible in a human lifetime, yet unstoppable in its persistence. It is a reminder that the earth has no need for urgency. It moves as it must, and in that movement, a deep, enduring harmony is created. You, too, can learn from this quiet insistence, that life unfolds in layers, each one significant, each one necessary. Beneath the surface, molten rock swirls, shaping the continents above. Volcanoes rise and fall with patience, releasing their heat and minerals to nourish the soil and sustain life. Earthquakes, sudden in our perception, are part of this deeper rhythm, reminders of movement, of energy transfer, of the living pulse of the planet. Even these events, though disruptive to humans, are part of a calm and continuous process. The Earth does not hurry, but it does not stop. Its persistence is the ultimate lesson in resilience. As your mind wanders further into this gentle awareness, picture the glacier, massive rivers of ice, moving slowly down mountainsides, sculpting the land as they go. They grind valleys into shape, deposit sediments that will nurture forests in the future, and reflect sunlight back into the sky. Their pace is measured, deliberate, unhurried. Watching glacier move in your imagination is a lesson in quiet endurance, in the beauty of processes that operate beyond immediate comprehension. You can let yourself drift along with them, feeling the same patience, the same deliberate unfolding, as if your own inner rhythm syncs with the heartbeat of the earth. Everything around you, mountains, oceans, rivers, forests, glacier, continents, moves according to the same ancient pulse. You feel yourself breathing with the planet, inhaling the quiet patience that it exudes. Your thoughts slow. Your muscles relax. You sense the continuity of existence, the unbroken line of time stretching backward and forward. And in this calm, meditative state, you understand that change is inevitable, yet it does not demand anxiety. Transformation is natural, deliberate, and profound. You are a participant, even if small, in this endless, flowing story. The Earth's heartbeat is not a thunderous drum but a soft, persistent pulse that carries all life along. It reminds you that being present is enough, that small movements, sustained over time, have tremendous power. As you feel the slow drift of continents, the rise of mountains, and the gentle shaping of rivers, you understand that patience is not passive, it is active, enduring, and essential. You imagine lying under a vast sky, the wind brushing over ancient stone, feeling the pulse beneath your feet, and realizing that everything is connected, everything moves, together, in deliberate, timeless rhythm. And as your eyelids grow heavy, as your thoughts soften into the quiet spaces between breaths, you sense that this patient heartbeat is more than a rhythm of stone and water. It is a lesson, a guide, a gentle companion on the journey of time. You carry it with you into your dreams, feeling the slow, steady, unyielding persistence that shapes mountains, oceans, and continents alike. And in that soft, eternal rhythm, you wonder what other stories the Earth has yet to tell, just beneath the surface, waiting for the next moment to unfold.